Good morning, you're very welcome back. Now, a 50-hour sleep-out protest takes place outside the Dáil later on today to raise awareness of the huge backlog of parents waiting for an assessment of needs for their children.
We're joined today by 14-year-old Cara Darmody, who is staging the protest. Her father, Mark, and Ciara Reilly, whose daughter, Dáil, has been waiting 4 years to receive any services from the state to help with her autism. Ciara is also a lecturer in teacher education. You are a teacher, you work within the system. Thank you to everyone for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Good morning.
So, Ciara, can you tell us, what is an assessment of need?
So an assessment of need is probably the first port of call where if you think your child has a particular need of any particular nature, it's not any particular disability or particular need, you go to the state and they, in theory, you apply for your assessment of need and you should hear back from them within 3 months of application for your AON. And the AON should be then complete within 6 months. And it is a multidisciplinary team assessment of where you are at. So it could be a child or a young adult.
Okay. It can take it's quite a rigorous examination, though. It can take quite a bit of time.
Absolutely. So it is a complex assessment of where the child is at, if done in full. But it is a necessary first place to begin to know how best you can support the child and where the child is at and how the state and therapies can assist them.
Okay, so
it's a roadmap, I would say, to understanding the child.
And they do that on the HSE and within the health service. They've got the PDA, the Progressing Disability Services for Children in Need. We had Hildegard Naughton in here talking about how they wanted to bring 14,000 more people online to try to help because, the huge backlog is 14,000 people.
15,000.
Now,
15,000. And as Cara will speak to later, with projected up to 25,000 children on this waiting list by the end of the year.
So it's increased 1,000 in that little short time that we've been there, and you were saying 25,000.
Yes.
So you're looking at this, you can see this from the education point of view and the impact it's having in schools and to teachers. What is it like for Dáil? What has it been like? How long did it take and where are you at?
Your daughter.
So to illustrate where we're at, we're a classic case. There's nothing unique about our story. Dáil will be 6 in July. We first applied for the assessment of need when she was 2. We eventually completed the process, Maria, as in we have a report. We got that when she was 4.5, so there was a 2.5-year wait to get to that point. We then got that report in November 23, but one of the key reasons why people go for an assessment of need is by the end of the process, you get what is called a service statement that issues from the state, whereby they make a commitment to make a particular delivery of service for your child by a particular date. We are now, and we are one of thousands in this scenario, so I don't mean to suggest that we are unique in this. We are now waiting for that service statement since November 2023 with absolutely no understanding when therapeutic care, as listeners and viewers today would understand it, direct therapeutic support and care working with the child will deliver. So up until now, they would argue that we are in receipt of service delivery. I would argue as a teacher, as somebody who is working within education and supporting parents and young people who are working with young people, as I work with student teachers who have additional needs, it is not therapeutic care, because what we are in receipt of is we get invitations to webinars, coffee mornings, etc. And my daughter has complex care needs. And in lieu of receiving anything from the state, what we have to do now is supplement her care needs and therapeutic care ourselves. And that means pursuing, if you can get through the waiting lists, getting support privately, or else, as we have learned to do, you deliver the therapy service at home yourself. And that's the way it is for us and for thousands of families who are watching.
What impact does this have on Dáil? What's the day-to-day life like for her?
It's enormously challenging. Dáil is a child who responds to developing relationships with people. We are one of the very, very lucky families who we can say we have access to a school place that is an appropriate school place that is responding to her needs profile. That is not something that other people can necessarily assume to have. But she requires weekly private therapeutic input. daily therapeutic support and care for myself and my husband. And without that, she cannot thrive and have the same opportunities that life would present, say, for her sister, who does not have the same care needs profile, you know.
0896 111 111, because as Ciara keeps on saying, you're one of thousands. You're speaking on behalf of an awful lot of people you know as well, though, because you know what's going on. And Cara, you're here because you've been campaigning for quite a long time because of your lovely brothers, John and Neil, who have autism. So you're planning on staging a protest outside the Dáil. What are you doing?
So I'm going to be doing a 50-hour overnight protest from 10 a.m. this morning until 12 p.m. on Thursday, and it's basically all to raise awareness about the assessments and needs issue, but more importantly because I previously met many ministers and the 3 previous Taoiseachs like Simon Harris, Micheál Martin and Leo Varadkar, and they made me loads of promises and they were so nice to me when I met them, and that they promised they were going to do something about this issue and stick with their promises. And look, listen, that hasn't been done. So I've decided the only way to get that to be done is that I'm going to have to protest outside to make further progress on this issue, because while I did get 10 million euros worth of government funding back in last October, a couple of thousand children may have benefited from that, but it's not enough. And the waiting lists are getting even worse, and that they're going to be up to 25,000 by the end of the year, which is only in 7 months' time. And that it's disgraceful, and that the government are smashing the law on this issue. And it's the only issue in Ireland where they're breaking the law. And that they need to treat this like the house is on fire. Because if there was a pipe burst in your house and water was exploding everywhere, you wouldn't say, oh, we need to wait another couple of weeks. You'd act urgently on that issue. And the government, this is an urgent issue that needs to be fixed right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. It needs to be fixed now. And that's the whole point of my protest.
It's amazing. Good on you. You're an incredible sister, an incredible advocate for so many children out there who are needing this. A combined opposition are going to bring this motion to the Dáil today as well. For you, Mark, to see your daughter doing a 50-hour sleep outside the Dáil, but actually, and meeting politicians and being given promises, and that's maybe been reneged on, do you think something actually can happen?
I suppose you have to look at the track record, and it's not good for politicians. And I suppose the one thing the Cara is looking for here is just emergency thinking, and that's not what we're seeing. As she said about the broken pipe, they're just not acting in any type of emergency mode, and that's what needs to change. So if they just come up with more plans today and tell us we're going to do this and do that, it's doomed to failure because the attitude is wrong. Now, I suppose we have to be very grateful to the parties like Sinn Féin have given up their Mary Lou has given up their time for this today, for all parties. So I think the government have a bigger problem here, that their conduct is such that they've united the opposition on an issue.
What age are John and Neil, and how are they?
12 and 8. We're like so many thousands of families. We have suffered horrifically at the hands of the state. I would even say that when you go looking for the services, you're basically treated as an enemy of the state, and it is horrific. One of our children, he doesn't have an appropriate school place. Look, we're just like everybody else, but Cara doesn't ask for anything for our family, and that's one thing we want to make clear here. She's not campaigning for our family. This is her national advocacy, and she's doing it for everybody else. And I suppose the shock is the HSE revealing, I actually call it this 25,000 figure, that they're saying it's going to go up from 15 to 25. So it's not campaigners speculating, it's their words that this is a Titanic sinking, and that it is a cry for help from the government.
But so what do you do? You're living it, like thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. We know how many children didn't have school places last year, just like having to stay at home, and they're falling further behind. Ciara, when it comes to actually not just the assessment of needs, but the education system, can they cope with this? Do we have the staff? No.
And I say this, and I hope anyone who knows my work in education will know that I'm constantly advocating on behalf of teachers and in full support of schools. And we have had the most magnificent experience with schooling ourselves. I would say education and schooling is the one part of the state that hasn't let us down. But we are very unique in that situation. And unfortunately, what happens with schools is, as a parent, I want to say, open up classes, not only do we need specialised autism classes, but we need a variety of different classes to support and address the variety of complexity of need out there. But unfortunately, it becomes a matter of budgeting and figures, and they don't put the care needs of the child to the fore. Schools then find themselves being bounced into positions where they're being told, open up classes. We want it now, we need it now. And they are not doing this in appropriate ways where they're streamlining supports, training teachers appropriately, resourcing and equipping schools. They're giving schools a matter of months to establish these classes. And we know our children, and working with them to give them the optimum chance of doing the best, it requires enormous planning and training and support. And that's just not there. So we do have to, there's an urgency there, and we need our schools to move along. But we have to understand that our schools are doing, the majority of them are doing the very best they can with the most limited of resources.
But I do have to think that there's 15,000, what we're saying, going to 20 to 25. When you're talking about the complexity of these assessments, it's going to be so difficult as well to do that. And that's the challenge, I suppose, that the government have to deal with. I do have to ask you, though, 50 hours camping out, I mean, like, it's an incredible challenge again for you. Are you set for it? Like, at least the weather's decent.
I suppose, look, it's going to be really tough, and it's saying that there's going to be a couple of showers in Dublin today, but it will be nice tomorrow, apparently. But I think that even if there was a snow blizzard and there was like 12 inches of snow, I don't think that's not going to stop me, because I am determined to fix this issue, and that the government, that they're lawbreakers. And I get that they're not going to want to hear this type of criticism, but I'm going to say it right here and right now, that they're lawbreakers and that they're breaking the law. And that the only way that they can't be a lawbreaker is if they announce that they're going to stop breaking the law and then move heaven and earth to stop breaking the law. That's the only way that they're not going to be lawbreakers. And that's going to determine me to keep on going on my protests whenever things get tough, that the government are breaking the law and that they need to stop.
They had promised the assessment of needs, which has been promised in many programmes of your government for many years. And we know that there are promises that have certainly not been fed through. Listen, Cara, we wish you the best. You're going to be starting at 10 o'clock this morning. Cara Darmody, your father, Mark, thanks a million. And best of luck and much love to all of your family for what you're doing this, Mark, as well.
I know your mum as well is looking after two brothers.
Lecturer in teacher education and, of course, campaigner as well, Ciara Reilly. Thank you so, and Mammy, absolutely.
Most important of all.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.